कौन सा वाला होगा दोनों में से?
जिसमें स्टूडियो 3 लिखा हुआ है इस पर क्लिक करो ना।
ये वाला ना, ठीक है, मुझे भेजना है किसी को, स्टूडेंट्स को भेजना है ना।
लाइव स्ट्रीम स्टार्ट तो हो गई है, मुझे बात टेस्ट हो जाना होगी। हेलो, एक सेकंड, अभी टेस्ट हो जाएगा।
भेज दिया मैंने सबको। ये अभी चलेगा ना?
जी चलेगा।
चैट वाला स्क्रीन साइड में नहीं देख सकते क्या?
वो आपको मैम या तो उसमें देख, या तो फ़ोन में देख लीजिए पढ़ाते हुए साथ के साथ,
डिस्टर्ब
क्योंकि
नहीं
स्लाइड
करेगा?
शो मोड में है ना, या फिर एंड में जाके इसको जब एस्केप करोगे तो
लेकिन
गूगल वाले पे जाना, गूगल क्रोम वाले पे, यहाँ पे चैट
ये
लिखी है।
डिस्टर्ब नहीं करेगा ये? इसको म्यूट करके रख सकती हूँ शायद।
हाँ,
ठीक
आवाज़ तो आ रहा है।
ठीक है, चल करा देते।
ऑडियो की भी टेस्टिंग होगी, तो मेरा इंटरनेट अभी थोड़ा क्या चीज़ होगी यहाँ पे। ठीक है मैडम, नेट आवाज़ आ रही है, आपने सुन लिया है तो
ठीक है,
मैं
थैंक यू।
यहाँ पे अपना नाम और साइन कर दीजिए।
हाँ, बाद में, अभी थोड़ा बिजी हूँ।
जाते ही मतलब वही क्लास खत्म कर दें।
हाँ जी। Good morning, students. I request the CRs to tell the students to join quickly. We have only 70 students joining till now. I'll be waiting for another 5 minutes. Kindly tell them to join fast. Today you won't be able to speak directly to me, but you can use the chat box if you have any queries in between. So I think we will start the class. We have only 71 till now. Let me see. Yeah, we have only 71 participants, but let's get on with the class because it's getting late and you guys have another class at 10. So yesterday we saw the research terminologies, and today the plan is to see the characteristics of good research and to learn a little bit about the overview of research process. So the characteristics of good research are: good research is an orderly and systematic process. There is a process of starting the research, how to do it, what will be the intervention, and how to analyze. So we plan the research from beforehand, and it is in order and it is based on the process. Good research is based on current professional issues. We are not trying to find out what happened a long time back, or which is already so much research that it has become an evidence-based practice already. But then we are trying to find out some of the current professional issues which are ongoing. Clear research has a clearly defined, good research has a clearly defined purpose. So your research will have to have a definite purpose, and the purpose should be clear, and it should be simple. So you don't want to study something which is of a multiple nature in just one research study. So you'll have to pinpoint what you want to study. For example, going to the example I gave yesterday on the effect of milk on height, there can be many other different types of milk. Like you said, There are milk with added supplements. There are milk with diluted milk, cow's milk, buffalo's milk. So if you are trying to study the different types of milk on the height, on its effect on the height of the children, then it will be cumbersome and it will take a lot of time, and you may end up having a study which does not have enough evidence in order to be generalized to the population. So you'll have to have a clearly defined purpose, that what is the kind of milk you want to test on the children, and whether this kind of milk affects the height of the children. Okay, Jogender is saying louder, so it's because of my mask actually. I'm just going to take out my mask. May work. Yeah. So I think now, is it better now? All right. Now, good research also emphasize to develop, refine, and expand the professional knowledge, which we have already discussed in the introduction class also. And it is directed towards development or testing theories. So every profession has their own theories. We have theories about nursing. There are theories on different disciplines, biology or chemistry or whatever, the different disciplines which are there. So our research also should be directed towards developing our own theories as well as testing those theories. Good research is about finding solution of a problem. Research always starts with a problem and you want to find a solution for that. So good research should address that. It is dedicated to develop empirical evidence. So you have some evidence which is measurable and which is through your research you are trying to develop that kind of evidence to be used in nursing education or in nursing administration or in your clinical area. Then good research strives to collect first-hand information. So whenever you are doing a research, you are collecting something known as primary data. Okay, you will learn more about the types of information in the chapter of literature review. So you will know that when we do research, we are interested in collecting first-hand information. We are collecting information about a patient's hemoglobin, suppose, or information about the stress level, or about how they experience, the first year nursing students, their experience in nursing. So these are all first-hand information, and whenever you do research, we always should collect first-hand information. Good research is an objective and logical process. So we do many things in research to make sure that the research you are doing is objective in nature and it has a logical process. So we are not dependent so much on subjective data. It is especially true in case of quantitative research, where we make sure that everything that we do is objective in nature and it is replicable. You are documenting your research process in such a way that if anyone else wants to do that kind of research, they will be able to replicate your research. Good research generate findings to refine and improve professional practice. Good research use appropriate methodology. Okay, so there are different methodologies we have seen. If you remember in my first slide, in my second class, I think, when we saw the different types of research. There are different methodologies which are used. So if you remember, I want you to use your chat box to write some of the methodologies which you remember or you know about research. So let me make it a little easier for you. In the approach of quantitative research, if we are using quantitative research, what are the two main methodology of quantitative research? Can anyone use the chat box to answer that? Susha Thomas is writing experimental. Somebody has written quasi-experimental. Varsha, Kiran Fulera, they are writing experimental. So Leah Clara is writing experimental and non-experimental. Thank you so much for responding. So the main two methodologies in quantitative research are experimental and non-experimental. So you'll have to use an appropriate methodology in order to test your hypothesis or look into your assumptions. So if there is a problem, you want to know about, suppose yesterday somebody was mentioning about eco defense mechanism in children. So do you want to use do you want to study that problem or that topic using a non-experimental approach, or do you want to use an experimental design? Okay, so you have to look into your problem and then use the appropriate methodology, and it should be conducted on a representative sample. Yesterday we had a long discussion on this, what you mean by representative sample. So we have to use, as much as possible, we have to use probability method of sampling, okay, where each person in the accessible population has an equal chance of being selected for the study, which will ensure that you are conducting your study on a representative sample. So when I say representative sample, I am referring to the population. So whatever your study results should be generalizable to the population. Use of appropriate tools for a given methodology. So this is also again very important. Whatever methodology you have chosen, you have to use appropriate tools in order to collect data for that methodology. So if your tools are not properly made, or you are using a tool which is not appropriate, then your findings will be flawed. Okay, so you have to make sure that your tools are valid, they are reliable, so that you get the right result. Just for a simple example, if you are using a kitchen knife to cut a tree, okay, how long is it going to take you? Or you may not even succeed in doing that. But if you are using a sharpened axe to cut the tree, it is going to take you a very short time. So it's same thing in research also. You'll have to use appropriate tools. That takes us to the next point, which is the use of valid and reliable tools. So the term validity and reliability will come up again and again in research, and these are important terms. I think I should have mentioned it in the terminology itself. Anyway, these are terms which you should know. You should go and read up on it. And what I mean when I say valid, that means the instrument is measuring what it is supposed to measure. Okay, So a simple example is a thermometer. So if you are measuring using a thermometer to measure the temperature, then you will get the temperature of the patient. So that instrument is valid. If you are using a sphygmomanometer to measure the temperature, obviously you will not get the temperature. So that is not a valid instrument for temperature. So like that, in all your studies, either you are measuring the knowledge, you should be using a tool which will assess the knowledge. If you are measuring the stress level, it should measure the stress level. It should not measure depression. Okay, so it has to be valid. There are different methods, statistical methods, to check the validity of an instrument, and you will see that more. You will know more about it in detail later on in the classes. When we say the tool is reliable, we mean the reliability of the tool, or the ability of the instrument to give the same result on multiple measurements. So if you use the example of the thermometer, if the thermometer is giving you the same result, it's measuring temperature when you use it multiple times. You checked it in the morning, it's giving you temperature. You checked it in the evening, it's giving you temperature. Then it is a reliable tool. Suppose you use an instrument to measure temperature. Morning you used it and it gave you the temperature, but in the evening when you used, it is telling you about a heart rate. That means the instrument is not reliable. Okay, so and you have to make changes in the instrument so that it becomes reliable. So whenever you do research, make sure that the tools you are using are both valid and reliable. The next point is, good research can be replicated and doable. So we sometimes may plan a lot of problems, research topics, but it is not doable. Okay, in the real practical setting, it is not actually doable. So some research of sensitive nature involving sensitive issues may be a good problem to study, but it may not be doable in the practical setting. So you have to see, if you are doing a research, that it can be replicated as well as doable. Good research is carefully recorded and reported. It's very important that you carefully record what actually you are doing. So suppose you do a health education program. The effect of health education program on increasing the knowledge, improving the knowledge, I would say, of hypothermia in newborns among postpartum mothers. Okay, you are doing study on that. So you, in your methodology, you mentioned that you are going to give health education, but you are not saying what kind of health education, what will be the content of that health education, for how long are you going to use. Are you going to use PPT, or you're going to send them a WhatsApp message, or are you going to do face-to-face education? Are you going to use AV aids for that? So you have to carefully record all the details, how you have carried out that health education activity. Otherwise, when you try to write it down later and then you try to publish it, then you will not be able to, the people who are reading that research will not be able to replicate it in different setting. They won't be able to do it again. So that means all your effort has gone into waste, because it is only you who knows it, and there is no way other people are going to replicate it. And your method, if you have used a very good innovative way of teaching also, people are not going to appreciate, and it's going to get waste. That's why every good research should be recorded and reported. So reporting, as you know, it can be done in the journals, or you can present it in the conferences. Nowadays there are many online platforms also where you can publish your research. Good research is adequately and appropriately analyzed. So again, we have to ensure that you are using the right analysis tools in order to analyze your data. And it is a patiently carried out activity. That means we are not doing research in a hurry-worry manner. Okay, it's not supposed to be done in 15 days time and then you finish it, okay, and you try to report it. It's not like that. It is a patiently, carefully planned activity, and you have to ensure that the research is of value to the profession and it is benefiting the population on which you are doing the research. Good research is adequately communicated. So after you finish your research, you have to make sure that you communicate it to the right audience using the right journals, okay, and that will ensure that you have done a research of value. The researcher is genuinely interested and invested in the research. So this is my last point in the characteristics of good research. So students, as a student researcher, you will have to be genuinely interested in a problem. Okay, something should be giving you an itch. You want to study that problem, and you are adequately invested in studying that problem. Then only you will be able to do the right justice to the topic at hand. So I hope you will be genuinely interested and invested in the topic which you will choose as your project. Okay, so now coming to the second part of this presentation, which is the overview of research process. So the first phase is the conceptual phase. So in many other books, you have different research books. So the steps of research process may be a little bit different from each other, but don't worry about that. The general idea is same only for all the research process. So the steps which I'm sharing right now is taken from book which is known as Textbook of Nursing Research from Pollitt and Beck. So the book describes the steps of research process in different phases. So the first phase is the conceptual phase. So when we say conceptual phase, you are trying to conceptualize your research problem or the research topic. Here what you do is you formulate the problem. Okay, you want to study about what is the effect of milk, or what role do milk plays in the height. So you try to formulate the problem, and then you review the related literature. What does the the journals, the books, the different literature available, what do they say about this problem, and how many studies have been done on this problem? What kind of studies have been done? What is the methodology used? What is the evidence which is there at present on this problem? So all these questions you have to answer by reviewing the related literature. Then you undertake clinical field work. This is a very important step again. So if your problem is a clinical problem, or it can be even a problem which is happening among the students or among a certain group of people, so you'll have to go there into that field and ask around, observe whether the problem which you have formulated is actually there or not, and what is the current practice there in the clinical area, whether your problem is feasible to be done in that clinical area. So many times we formulate a problem, we think that it's a problem, but when you go and ask around in the clinical area or in to those people, then they will say, oh, this problem has been taken care of, we are not having this kind of problem now. Or they may even suggest something new, that why don't you add on your problem and do something like this. So it's very important to undertake the clinical field work in order to check whether your study, your research study is feasible to be done in that area or not. Then you define the framework of your research. So defining the framework can be something which is entirely innovative. You are actually laying out how you will do the research, or it can be based on a theory. So suppose you want to do some research on a kind of in education. So there are many theories of education. Suppose you want to learn, your research is about learning, how students learn. So there are many theories which explain how students learn. Okay, so you can use that kind of theory to develop a framework. Okay, students go through these phases. Okay, they go through these phases when they learn. So even in my research also, I will try to test this theory, whether really the students are going through this kind of phase. Okay, so like that you have to define the framework of the research, and then you formulate a hypothesis. So hypothesis, again, we have seen in yesterday's definition that it's a statement which helps us to give a relationship between two variables. Okay, and you also write how you're going to measure those the difference of using what tool. Okay, so you formulate a hypothesis to test using your research. The second phase is the design and planning phase. Okay, so you have already conceptualized your problem, you have done literature search, and you have even gone to the clinical area to check out the feasibility and things like that, and you have made a framework and you have developed a hypothesis. Now you will have to select your research design. Okay, so there are different research designs. Okay, you can use some randomized controlled trial, or a quasi-experimental design, or you can use a qualitative design. Okay, so different designs are there which you can use. You will have to choose depending on your problem, and then you identify the population and you design the sampling plan. How are you going to pick your participants? And then you specify the data collection method. How will you collect data? How long is it going to take you to collect? Suppose you have you are going to enroll 200 patients or 200 participants. So per day, how many participants are you going to use for data collection? So depending on that, you'll have to lay out a data collection plan. Okay, how I will collect this much per day, so it will take me this much time to finish my study, and I will be using this kind of tools. This particular tool will be will take around 30 minutes to complete, so I will have to allot that much time for each participant. Okay, so all these methods specifically you have to define before you start the study. Then you will have to take ethical clearance. Again, a very important step. Ethical clearance have to be taken before you start your research, and there are institutional ethical committees. AIMS has an institutional ethical committee which is very active, and you can give your research proposal for ethical clearance. So they will see that no undue harm is being done to the participants, and you are actually protecting the rights of whoever are participating in the research. You are maintaining their anonymity and their confidentiality. So all this will have to be specified before you do the study. Then you finalize the research plan. Now phase 3 is the empirical phase or the measurement phase. Here you collect the data as per your plan, and then you prepare the data for analysis. So before this comes in the stage between phase 2 and phase 3, here it is not mentioned, but you may find one more step, that is doing a pilot study. So you do a pilot study on a small group of patients or participants. So you do a pilot study in order to test your research design and your tools and your data collection methods. So it's like a testing, a trial, okay, to see whether your research is feasible or not. The purpose of doing a pilot study is to make sure that you will not encounter major problems when you really do your empirical phase, your data collection. So you ensure that in your pilot study, and based on your pilot study result, you can also do modification on your design if it is needed. So the empirical phase is collecting the data and preparing the data for analysis. Now the phase 4 is the analytic phase. Here you analyze the data using statistics. Okay, Sima madam, I'm sure, is taking wonderful statistics classes, and I'm sure you will learn so much from her. And then you interpret the results. And phase 5 is the dissemination phase. So once you have done your research, you have analyzed and interpret your findings, the final step is the dissemination phase. You will have to communicate the findings. Communication, as I've told you, can be done through journals, can be done through conferences, okay, and you can also make your thesis available in the library so that people can go through it and they will utilize the findings in practice. So unless your research is useful, is utilized by people, then it will be a wastage of time to do research. Okay, so phase 5 is also very important. So with that, I think I've finished with the slides and the step of overview of the research process, and we have finished with unit 1 of your syllabus. I will just look into your chat box and try to answer if you have posted any questions. Okay, so Vaishali, she's asking, ma'am, please provide an example of a good research but not doable. Okay, so just like that, coming up with a topic is difficult, but then suppose you want to assess the experience of people, women, Muslim women, on intimate partner violence. So it is quite a sensitive topic, and it is you may want to know about it, but then you will need expertise in that field, and it may not be doable in your stage. Okay, and you may need to clear certain administrative protocols also, like so you those kind of sensitive things, okay, sensitive issues may not be doable every time, or it can be something which is outside your sphere of practice. Okay, suppose you're working in the pediatric department, but you want to know more about in neurosurgery, some patients, so it can be a good topic, but it may not be doable in your circumstances. I hope that answers your question. She's saying, because if research is good, then work should be done on it. So yeah, of course, if it's a good problem, then it should be done, but then many times it is not feasible to do it. Okay, so that's what I meant. Anita is saying slides are not clear. Okay, anyway, I'll be sending you the slides after the presentation. I've actually already sent you the handout, so you can check from there. Parul is saying, after the second step, there is a separate step in which pilot study is done, or is it included itself in the second step only? It's these steps are not actually clear cut. Okay, so pilot study can come in the empirical phase actually, but it is like a bridge in between. It's a bridge in between your design and planning and the empirical phase. So in many books you will see the steps of research process are not actually given in phases, but you can just do it like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like that. So in that line, once you have finalized your research design, you can go ahead and do your ethics are already cleared. You are cleared from the ethical side, and you can do the pilot study. Okay, so you can add it as a step in that. Okay, so any other questions are there? Many of you have writing thank you, welcome. And regarding your attendance, I just want to confirm whether Karuna is there from Post Basic. Karuna from Post Basic is there. If she is there, please use the chat to mark your attendance. And Kanchan Sharma also from Post Basic, if you are there. Komal is saying, do you use small sample for pilot study? Yes, Komal, we are using a small sample. Usually the rule is to use 10% of your main sample. So if you are planning to recruit 100 participants, then it will be you will do a pilot on the 10. But make sure that these 10 samples are not part of your main data collection, okay? Because you may change your tools and you may change your methods depending on the pilot study. So that's why the results which come out of the pilot study are not used in the actual data collection. Okay, Karuna, she is not joined. Kanchan is there. And Shivani from Post Basic, is she there? Shivani. Shivani, I don't think she is there. So we will stop from here. So in Post Basic, Divya Dangdang is there. Divya. Even I think she is not there. So I have actually used the set facility for so that all of you can join in the class, because in the Google Meet we were not able to admit more than 100 participants. But sadly only 73 of you are there. So I'm not sure what is the problem. I want the class representative to find out from the students why they were not able to join in this platform, so that we can resolve it next time. Tomorrow also I'm planning to use the same platform to take your class. So make sure that you tell me the problem before tomorrow, so that we can resolve it. And I hope you'll be joining tomorrow in full strength. Thank you.